Welcome to the Rhinestone Podcast, where we journey through the extraordinary lives of music's brightest stars. I'm your host, Banner Driscoll, and today we're shining a light on the unparalleled artistry of Tommy Emmanuel. Tommy Emmanuel isn't just an acoustic guitarist. He's a certified guitar player, a rare title bestowed upon him by the legendary Chet Atkins. Known for his jaw-dropping fingerstyle technique, Tommy can transform a single guitar into an entire orchestra, effortlessly playing rhythm, melody, and bass lines all at once. But what truly sets him apart is the infectious joy he brings to every performance. His energy is palpable, his delight in the music unmistakable, and his passion absolutely contagious. Born in Muswellbrook, Australia, Tommy's musical journey began early, touring the country in a family band by age 6. From these roots, he went on to become one of the world's most celebrated guitarists, performing alongside legends like Eric Clapton and Les Paul. His career includes countless accolades from Grammy nominations to international awards. But one of the most iconic moments came in 2000 when he performed during the closing ceremony of the Sydney Olympics. With his guitar in hand, Tommy captivated millions, showcasing his unique ability to connect deeply with audiences on a global stage. Beyond the spotlight of the Olympics, Tommy's collaborations are a testament to his versatility and boundless love for music. His recent Accomplice 1 and Accomplice 2 albums feature duets with a who's who of musical greats, from Mark Knopfler to Billy Strings. And his recent PBS special, Accomplice Live, captures the magic of these partnerships, featuring performances with stars like Emmylou Harris and Sierra Hull. Join us as we explore the remarkable life of Tommy Emmanuel, uncovering the stories behind his unforgettable performances, his journey through the highs and lows of the music world, and the enduring legacy of a man who plays not just to entertain, but to spread pure, unbridled joy. Tommy Emmanuel, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me, Banner. I sure do appreciate that, and congratulations on your success here. And I hope that what we do together today is going to help some people.
Oh, you have no idea. I'm so excited and honored to have you on. Tommy, I'm going to take this episode in a slightly different direction than I normally do. And I wanted to tell you kind of a little bit. I'm going to try not to get emotional, but you played a concert in Atlanta several years ago, and I wanted to tell you the story behind it, why it's so important to me. My grandfather passed away about 8 years ago, and my grandfather, big music lover, especially country music. And he, from the time I started playing guitar, I was like every 12-year-old, Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, AC/DC, right? And so my grandfather, being a big country guy, he would try to show me the country stuff, and I just never really got it at that age. It's a different stuff. And but he would ask me, like, oh, who's your favorite guitar players? And I would be like, oh, I like Angus Young, I like Tommy Iommi, Jimmy Page, Slash, every Guitar World magazine guitar player. And he was like, you know what? You need to play like Chet Atkins. You need to play like Chet Atkins. And I was like, I don't care. Who that old man kind of thing. I just pushed it to the side. And so, and he'd always say that. And so anyway, a few years later, he took me to the Georgia Music Hall of Fame in Macon, Georgia, which is no longer around. But in the Georgia Music Hall of Fame, there's all sorts of crazy stuff. Georgia's got an amazing history of music. But one of the people, obviously, is Chet Atkins. And Chet Atkins is from Georgia.
Well, Chet lived in Columbus, Georgia. That's where he heard Merle Travis on the radio. That's what changed his life.
Really?
When he was living there, yes.
Oh, wow. So we were there at the Georgia Music Hall of Fame, and I'm looking at REM and the Allman Brothers and all sorts of other stuff. Nothing, not even comparing about this. So my grandfather, we went to the gift shop, and he bought 3 Chet Atkins albums for me, and he was just like, "You need to listen to these." And one of them was The Day the Fingerpickers Took Over the World, which is the collaborative album you did. And so on the way home, we was just like, "You need to play like this." And he made me sit in his truck, and we were just listening to the Chet Atkins records. And that's when I got it. And it was like, oh man, this guy is so amazing. And so a couple years later went down, and ended up back visiting them again. And you were playing in Atlanta, and which is right it's pretty close to where my grandparents live. And so I told them, I was like, hey, Chet Atkins has passed, but the other guy on that record, he's playing, and by this time I'd become obsessed with you and the YouTube videos, and I'd seen all the, all that stuff, and so I was like, the other guy is there on for that record is there, Tommy Emmanuel. Let's go see him play. And he was like, I don't know, But either way, he wants to spoil his grandson, right? So he takes us and we go, and for 90 minutes, me and him just had our jaws on the floor. We could not believe how amazing you were. And it was so incredible. And the reason I think it was so incredible was, I was so young and my grandfather never really got a chance to see the things I was able to do musically, unfortunately. He passed away. And so I just wanted to share that story with you because, it's really one of the most special music moments in my life I have with my grandfather. And I just wanted to say thank you for that.
Right. Well, I can understand everything about that story from both sides because Chet Atkins and I were like father and son, and he was such a dear daddy to me in so many ways. And I can tell you that one of the things he impressed on me and made sure that I heard the message, and that was he said, I need you to grab the ear of the younger generation because I can't do that anymore. I did it earlier. I did it in the 60s and 70s. He said, but I can't do it anymore, and I need you to get out there and do whatever you do to grab the attention of the younger generations to get them interested in wanting to play guitar this way. And so he kind of said that to me and said that, like he didn't say the word, but this is your mission.
Yeah, and that's awesome to hear because I think if anybody is doing it, I think it's you. And I just had to tell you that story. It's just one of those things.
Well, I appreciate that. I've always, when I first heard Chet Atkins, I was only a little boy. I was 7 years old, and I almost I don't know, exploded when I heard him. I heard a sound that I'd never heard before. And it was something that just galvanized me. It hit me like a bolt of lightning. And I could tell that he was playing everything at once. And people were saying, oh, no, it's a recording trick. It's overdubbed, and all that sort of stuff. But I could hear it. And I don't know how that works, but I could definitely hear it. And I started to work on it. And by the time I was 10, I had taught myself Windy and Warm and Freight Train and a few of those kind of tunes. And I was playing with a straight pick, like doing this, And it wasn't until I saw a photo on a Chet Atkins record where he had the thumb pick on. And I went, that's it, So the gate opened and the horse bolted out.
Were thumb picks easy to find in Australia when you were younger? Was that an easy thing to find?
Most hillbilly or country people used a thumb pick, and there were quite a few Hawaiian steel players and pedal steel players in the late 60s. Steel guitar became very popular because of records, made here in Nashville. So, I remember listening to Tom Brumley with Buck Owens and the Buckaroos. Lloyd Green was one of my favorites. And just so many great pedal steel players. And Norman Hamlet with Merle Haggard. Those were the guys we all listened to, And so it's funny you talking about country music that you were young. See, I had the opposite experience. Well, I'm a different generation to you. I was born in '55, so I'm just a little bit older than you, Banner.
Just a little bit. We're not counting.
But see, my first influence was Jimmy Rogers, and that's music from the 20s. But it was great music. He's the father of country music, and because he came from Mississippi, there was a lot of blues in his music. He was, but he played with a straight pick. But he was doing stuff like he was you know, and he had a great sound, and he wrote great songs. So he was my first influence. Then there was Hank Williams, and then when we heard Buck Owens and Merle Haggard, I mean, we just like, God, every song was killer. The singing was great. Nobody sang as good as Merle Haggard. And holy smoke, it was beautiful. There was so much great music. And of course, when we heard Chet Atkins, it was hard to find Chet Atkins records in Australia back in the '60s. But I had some friends of our family who knew that I was a Chet nut, and they found some Chet Atkins records in the big city in Sydney, and sent them to me, and I wore those things out, I can tell you.
That's awesome. Also, one of my favorite guitar players now, as I've gotten older, because I have done that flip. I'm all into country and stuff now, especially the older stuff. But Don Rich from Buck Owens and the Buckaroos too is
Don
just
beautiful, and played fiddle great as well. Sang harmonies, and he was a great player. Yeah, and of course, Roy Nichols was one of my favorites too, with Merle Haggard. Yeah, Roy Nichols was this country guy who, in some of his solos, bebop made its way in. The same as some of Chet's solos. There's a little banjo roll every now and again and stuff like that. And that's a wonderful thing, that the music has a kind of it doesn't need to stay like a straight line. It can move around. I write songs as if I'm writing for a singer, and as long as the melody's stated, and I'm telling the story and everything without words. But sometimes I'll put stuff in there that's like typically Ray Charles piano style licks, and I always try to do things like that, because the people that I stole as many ideas as I could from, people like Jerry Reed, he was a great composer. And when I met Jerry, I said, "How did you end up playing and writing the way you did?" He said, "Oh, I was just trying to be Ray Charles." And when he said that, it all made sense to me now. It's like, when you hear him play, like his opening lick on Georgia on My Mind. Georgia, it's beautiful. That's a typical piano lick,
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I'm geeking out so hard right now, Tommy. You have no idea.
Geek.
All right, Tommy. I want to talk about your younger days, though. I am very curious, and I want to know, who is Buddy Williams, and why is he important to your story?
Buddy Williams was a big star in the 50s. Well, he was a big star before that. Actually, during the war years, he ended up getting drafted and going, and he was at the landing of a place called Balikpapan against the Turks or the Japanese or something. And anyway, he ended up getting wounded, and he was a war hero, and came back home to Australia and started writing songs and singing, and he used to sing and play a lot like Jimmy Rogers. And so Buddy was a rising star in those days. And when I worked with him, he was on the other side of the spectrum of his career. He was slowly unwinding down, coming down, and so another reason why Buddy was a big part of my life when I was young was his daughter and I were crazy about each other when we were kids. She was like my first girl, for the first girl I ever held hands with, things like that, And
How old were you, if you don't mind me asking?
uh, I joined Buddy when I was just before my 16th birthday, but we met him when we were kids, and my father, did everything he could to promote us as a band, and we went to see Buddy Williams' show, and he invited us to play. So we got our gear up on stage, and we played a little 15-minute set during his show, and the crowd loved it, and he loved us, and he ended up giving us a job. And so we toured with him for a little while, but we were forced off the road because the child welfare department in the government thought that we were slave labor, and so they forced us off the road. And my mother, crying her eyes out, saying, "My kids want to do this. This is what they do. They love it. This is what they want to do." And they said, "No, you can off the road into schools and all that stuff." So they forced us off the road. But it didn't stop us. My brother Phil and I, and my brother Chris, he was the drummer. We formed another band. We found a bass player who could sing a bit locally, and we called ourselves the Trailblazers. And we got a lot of work on the weekends: Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night sometimes. And we entered in band contests, and we ended up winning some TV shows. There was a show in 1970. It was called Showcase 70. And we went on there, and the view, we won. See, there was it's a bit like The Voice, except that the public could vote as well as the judges. So you had the judges' vote and the people's vote. And we won the grand final of the people's vote. And the judges thought we were, I don't know, a comedy act or something. But it's because we were having so much fun and putting the guitars behind our head and through our legs, and But if you stop and look at what we were playing, it was pretty advanced for young fellas.
That's amazing. I have often fantasized about being like, I grew up in my family. Everyone's a music lover, but nobody really plays instruments. I'm really the only one who was kind of like that. And I've always kind of fantasized in the back of my head about being in a family band kind of thing like that. And I was kind of curious more about that. Like, how did that all get started? And then like, how, I guess from my point, because I'm a little older now, I'm 32. And like, I guess how did your parents manage the line between like dealing with that? Was it all just you guys managing it? Was your parents involved? How was the relationship between your parents? Like, your parents running rehearsals?
we I was begging my mother for a guitar for my fourth birthday, and so her and Dad brought me this little 3/4 size guitar. And in no time, my mum had shown me how to play chords and how a song works. This is the introduction. Here's the verse. These are the chords. There's another verse, same chords. Here's the chorus. So it goes verse, chorus, solo, chorus out, and stuff like that. And she trained me how to do that. And then my older brother Phil, rest his soul, he wanted to be the lead guitar player. That's all he was interested in. And so we were listening to, you got to remember, back in those days, you're talking 1960, 61, there was a lot of instrumental music on the radio. There was just as many instrumentals in the charts as there were vocal songs. It's not like that anymore. But that's what it was like when we were kids. And we wanted to learn all these songs. And basically, my dad would come home with a record of a band called The Shadows from England. We'd put the record on, and we would just try to emulate the sound that we're hearing, to copy the sound on the record. So I had to work out I had to work out how to play the rhythm and learn the chords, and Phil had to work out the melodies without any help from anyone because Mum didn't know how to play melody, and Dad couldn't tap his foot in time, and and there were no guitar teachers and all that stuff. It was this is long before TV or so our only way of learning was from a record or from the radio. And that's how we learned. I learned everything by ear. I've never had a lesson, and I don't read music. I play everything by ear. And but there was a kind of happy accident that happened, and I'll tell you what that. So,
But would you mind lifting the guitar up just a little bit so I can see your hands? Okay. Well, just so I can see your hands a little bit. There we go. That's a little better.
Yeah, okay. So when I listened to the record, I didn't know that there was a bass guitar. No one said the word bass guitar. So I thought the rhythm player was playing the bass part, making that low sound. So what I'm talking about is this. So the rhythm player is playing, the bass is going, and so I'm hearing, right, and then other chords. Right? So every song I learned that my brother had to play the melody to, I worked out how to make that sound. And so this is what's amazing about nature is that because I heard the bass part and didn't really know it was a bass guitar, I thought it was the low strings on the guitar. When I heard Chet Atkins, I thought, oh, he's playing the low strings like this, and he's doing, and there it is, all because I had to do the rhythm part for my brother. It prepared me to use my ear for what was coming, but I can only say that now in hindsight, because at the time we were just like so fascinated by music and when we played songs that the public had heard on the radio, they just went nuts. They thought it was amazing, And you got to remember, I'm 6 years old, and I'm a professional guitar player at that age.
Okay, but like you're saying you're professional, so you're making money. Like, how did that work? Does your parents just take the check? And I mean, how are booking gigs?
There were no checks in those days. It was, my mum sold the tickets and she had a little red bag. We used to always say, where's the red bag? Because it always had money in it. And, if we were doing okay, I mean, we spent much more time broke than we did having money. But when we had some dates going and we were playing shows, my mother would slip a 20-cent coin inside the handkerchief in my pocket so that at the intermission I could go down to the shop, and buy an ice cream and stuff like that, And she'd do that kind of stuff for my brothers and sister and I. And when we could afford it. And we basically traveled around Australia. We got on every radio station we could. We got on every TV show we could. And but anyway, we had to come off the road because our dad had a heart condition, and he died when I was 10. My dad had a massive heart attack and fell down dead. But even that didn't stop us. We still went on and kept going.
How were there rehearsals? Like, I mean, my thing is, I think a lot of people have the idea that they think of Joe Jackson with the Jackson 5, right? And I'm not saying your parents were like that at all, but people do have this idea of it being like slave labor almost a little bit, like you talked about earlier.
my father used to say stuff like, "Okay, uh, uh, we would work out a new tune. We didn't need him to tell us to practice. When we had a new song we had to learn, we would get to it, And Phil was really great. I will talk about a wonderful brother. He was a beautiful brother, and he would help me with the chords and everything. But he relied on me to keep it together. I had to be a timekeeper, and I had to play the chords right and change at the right time and all that stuff. And uh, we would then play it for mum and dad, and if they thought it needed a bit of work, they'd say so. But other than that, they would say, "Oh well, let's put it in the show," stuff like that. And my eldest brother Chris played drums. He was self-taught as well. He's like Ringo. He's left-handed, but he played a right-handed kit because everyone did. And you never saw a left-handed drummer until Phil Collins.
And then what advice, because nowadays we have YouTube, right? And there's all these kids playing along, and there's so many kids that are like you who are passionate about music. And what advice would you give to parents about teaching, like nurturing that musical need like you and your brothers had?
Well, to be honest, I think most of it has to come from us. I'm still passionate. I'm still playing and living my life with the same passion I've always had for music. Of course, I'm a lot older, and I'm sitting in my own house. This is a dream come true. I own this house. I would have never thought of that when I was a kid. That I could own a house. Wow, because I slept in a car. I slept in the back seat of the car. Um, so, but as far as parents, the one thing that I want to say to all parents out there, and that is, don't smother your children by and spoil them by carrying all their gear, rolling up their cables, putting their guitar away, carrying their picks. I've seen parents where the mother keeps the son's guitar picks in her purse, and then he's going to play for me at a meet and greet, and he puts his hand out, and his mother puts the pick in his hand. Don't do any of that stuff. It's bad. It's our job. It's my job to carry my guitar, to pack it up, to change the strings, to be in tune. It's my responsibility. And so, I always tell people you shouldn't be doing that with them. He doesn't need you to carry his gear. He's got to get used to carrying it, because he's the one who's trying to get to the situation where he drives up and puts his gear on the stage, sets up and does plays and makes a few bucks. That's his responsibility. So, parents who smother their kids with too much help and all that kind of stuff shouldn't do that. They've got to do it themselves. And really, like I've seen it. There's a boy. He's 20 years old now, but I met him when he was 3, and he was already playing a 3/4 size classical guitar, having classical lessons. He had beautiful technique already. He held the guitar in such a way, and his parents brought him to my show, and he had such an awakening, because he'd only heard classical music. He's from Croatia. So he'd only heard classical music. Then he heard my show and saw the show, and his parents bought him a little mini Maton guitar, and away he went. And he worked out so much stuff, taught himself to play this style, and he's just such a whiz. He's amazing. His name's Freno Zivkovic, and his mum and dad have helped him every step of the way. And everything, but even I have to tell them, let him carry his gear. Stop carrying his gear.
Well, as someone who's not a prodigy and did have to carry their own gear, I respect that criticism completely.
Well, it's just People have to, it's up to us, to do the right thing and to put our energy, and be responsible people, you know.
So let's one of the things obviously with young musicians is practicing. And you've gone on and on about practicing. We can link to other podcasts where you've talked about practicing. But one thing I'm always curious about, and I ask this to professional musicians all the time because time is a very valuable resource when it comes to life. And I want to know, in your opinion, what do you think is the biggest waste of time for your musical career when it came to practicing?
I try not to waste time, but I think putting all your time into a mediocre song, you don't want mediocre songs. Yeah, you should know what a good song is, and um, so putting hours and days of your time into a mediocre song is a waste of time. You should be putting your energy into a good song and a good arrangement. Man, work on your arrangements and make it interesting and put everything in its place. Um, yeah. And also, the other thing is there are too many players who only play at home, and then when they get out to play somewhere, they don't know how to project their sound, and they don't know how to get a sound. You know, so there's so much to it. I see it all the time. I see it in players who they show up and they don't know what to do. They don't know. Well, you've got to have your own cable. They arrive and expect the cable to be there. Hello, you know.
Have you seen that? You've
I
seen that?
Oh, many times. Yeah. So I never go. Say if I'm going to sit in or I'm going to play in something that isn't my concert. I always carry my amp and cables. And, if I'm going to sit in, I'm going to get a good sound. I've got this amp. I've got this guitar. I'm going to get a good sound, you know?
And then what would you say are the most beneficial things you've practiced over your career?
Practicing with a metronome. That's the most beneficial thing I know. The other thing is recording yourself and listen back. And you don't have to play it for anybody. This is just for you to be the listener and hear what you're doing. Because sometimes if you're playing stuff, especially if it's a complicated song, all your brain's power is going into technically and physically playing this song. And you want to know that it feels good and sounds good and has dynamics and all that stuff. So the only way you can really tell at that stage is record it and have a listen. And straight away, your instincts should kick in and let you know where you're at with it. As soon as you hear it, you go, oh, that part there, I struggle with it. This part here, I'm pushing the time a bit. This part here tends to slow down or whatever. You can hear all that stuff. So in order for you to get it to be like straight ahead, no bumps in the road, and from start to finish, is just get to know what to work on. So record yourself and have a listen. And like I said, you don't have to play to other people. The other thing I want to say, especially to young people out there, and that is, don't go asking everyone's opinion about what you're doing, because they'll be happy to give it to you. And people's opinions are like, uh, uh, rear ends. Everyone's got one. And so, you don't need other people's opinions. You need to get to work. That's what you need, And don't be a people pleaser. Be a you pleaser. Try to put your standard up and reach that standard for yourself, and knowing that it's a lot better than it was, down here.
Have you caught yourself being like a people pleaser when it comes to music? And if so, how did you get out of that trap?
Oh, I'm talking about, of course, I play to please people. Absolutely. That's my job as an entertainer, is to entertain people and give them a great time. But I still play the way I play. I'm not easily pleased. So I try to keep everything I do at the right level. Having said that, I also love the putting a show together that has the right kind of dynamics. That I come out swinging, kind of here's the first song, bang. Here's the second one, bang. Here's the third one, bang. Now I'm going to talk to you, and everything's going along. Now we're going to do this, and now that, and now bang, bang, bang again. And it's like. Um, a show has every kind of dynamic, from slow songs, fast songs, medium paced songs, improvisation, um, funny stuff, and always when you're up there, don't take yourself too seriously. I always say to the audience, here's a song that I have performed in front of the Prince of Wales, the Duke of Edinburgh, and many other pubs. So, stuff like that. Things that people don't expect. Always little surprises.
I love it. And that's definitely
And
true.
things like, well, I'm going to play blah, blah, blah because I can't wait to hear it myself. Stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I think I love about your show. I've seen you 5 or 6 times, and you always have a really you're just one of the best stage banter musicians I've ever heard. You just always know how to engage the crowd. You know how to feel out an audience. I mean, it's just even if you don't play guitar, I think it's worth going to see you because of just how effective you are at reading the room and realizing what people are responding to and how you play.
Well, I've had a few years' experience, and I better have that stuff together. You know, um, I can always tell if I play too many ballads. And I can always tell when it's the right time to just slow things right down. You know, and I can always tell also when the audience need a real breather for a moment. And so I might tell a story about the song I'm going to play and all that, and play something like Lewis and Clark, or uh, you know uh, a song that the maybe Somewhere Over the Rainbow, if I play it, and it just gives the audience a whole different perspective, and they kind of lean in and listen. Whereas they're doing this and having a great time, and then when you play something like that, they slowly lean in, and it's like you're all together, you're huddled together almost. So you got to have all kinds of things. It's like a great meal. You've got the meat and potatoes, which is all your good songs and all your good playing. And then you've got all these other vegetables here, which are other ideas. You got a nice salad, and then you got your dessert and your coffee. That's your show. It's like, I'm going to start with this song and say, hello, this is who I am, and uh, how you come out of the gate is so important. That's why I never use a set list. Only if I'm playing with an orchestra or with a band, because everyone else needs to know what's going on. But when I play my solo shows, which you would have seen, there's never a set list. I always decide the first couple of songs before I go on. And my lighting director, Zach, will always say to me, how are we feeling? What are you doing? And I'll say, oh, we're going to start with this and this. Okay, all right. And then he'll be ready. But and it's just he and I and my sound man, we are improvising our way through every show. Steve sometimes has to quickly get to the reverb, the bigger reverb for a ballad. Maybe I won't introduce it, and I'll just start playing it, and I hear the reverb come in straight away. Sometimes I do that. So But I've over the years I've kind of got the hang of it, and but sometimes I try things, and if it doesn't work, well, then I just go, okay, well, that didn't work for me. Playing that song after that one, or whatever. So your repertoire, your job is to build your repertoire so that you can have at least 2 hours of full-on great songs, and then you can take some out and tell stories and change guitars and talk a little and all that sort of stuff, and have some fun interaction with your crowd. Um, so I try to do a bit of everything, and when I'm doing the stuff like Blue Moon, where I play all the parts, I tend to show the audience what I'm doing. So I say, okay, there's my bass player, right? Then I got a drummer, right? And then I got a rhythm guy, and the lead guy. Yeah, so
Oh my God.
you know,
Bravo,
so
man.
I tend to do that, and I'll say, here's the bass player, here's the drummer, here's the rhythm player, and then people get their head around it. Oh, that's what he's doing, because half of them think, oh, he's got something else playing there, and it's a lot of fun to do stuff like that, where you show the audience exactly what you're doing, and they understand it. The same thing when I play my drums and percussion solo on the guitar, and hit the microphone with a brush and all that sort of stuff. It's all musical, and it's all in the name of entertainment. But it's very, very musical ideas, and it's all with the. I just turn the mid range on the pickup in the guitar. I turn the mid range up a little bit, and the microphone inside the guitar is flat out, and I just bang away on it, and beat the hell out of it, and it sounds amazing.
Oh man, so much to unpack there, Tommy. I do have a few follow-up questions on a lot of the stuff you said there. So, one of the things is you talked about when you are playing live. You talked about you're able to find cues of when you're playing too many ballads, and you're hitting people over the face too much with fast stuff. What are those kind of things that you're looking for? Like, obviously, I know a lot of it's feel at this point, but are there certain things you're looking for in the audience? Because obviously, you mentioned when people come in, when you start to play a ballad, but how do you know when to throw that ballad in there? How do you know when to go into the next song? Like, are there physical things you're looking for?
You get a feel for it, especially when you've been hosing them out. I look at it like the fireman with that huge hose. I come out there and go, and hose the crap out of them for a while. That's like boom, boom, getting their attention, and giving them a great time. So I do that for a while, and then I might go into something like Deep River Blues, or a slower, funky song, a blues type song, or a Merle Travis tune, and stuff like that, and have some fun with it, and take some long solos, and like really stretch out. And then the next song might be like a straight ahead tune that I don't need to improvise in, or that I just play the song. And then I might do something like Guitar Boogie, and do key changes. I like, sometimes when I play Guitar Boogie, I do stuff like this. So the song's in E, right? So it's and then I go into the original. Right. Okay. So now I've set it up. I've played the original part. Now the rest of it, I'll just improvise. So I might do it. Right. So I'm improvising, and then I get to the back here, and then you think I'm going to finish, and I go, and I go into a slow blues. So now I'm free to improvise. And then I just keep going up in semitones until I get back to E, and then I finish it off. So Guitar Boogie goes for 15 minutes or something. So, but you can do that if I didn't always do that, but I like doing that because there's a part of me that understands that people need to see me stretch out. People need to see me flying my kite and taking chances up there, And because if I just came out there and played everything perfectly and played it safe, it wouldn't have the impact that me reaching for something, tripping over and missing a lick to get something good is half the fun. But people see that this guy's for real and he's really going at it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Oh man, it's just so cool to hear you play. Like I could just it's so much fun, man. I never get tired of it. All right, so another thing I wanted to good. Please don't ever give up. So one of the things I wanted to follow up on as well is you mentioned that you had a lighting director and a sound guy. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but like you're just how much of that, how does that have a huge effect on you playing live?
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
because to me
Absolutely.
it seems like you walk on stage and you play, but there's a what are the effects of having those two?
Well, first of all, I toured around the world on my own or with my ex-manager, and she sold merchandise and set up the gigs, and I came out and worked with the sound man, and I carried a rack that had a parametric EQ in it. It had reverbs and delays, and I controlled everything from the stage. I sound people are a different breed. They really are. And there are some people who can't leave it alone. You know, they don't know. Well, see, most players want to get their sound how they like it here on stage, and that's it. But I'm the opposite. I want to get it right out there with what the people hear. I want to sound as big as a band, and I need all the frequencies. You know, I need the subs, the mids, and the horns. I need everything. Put it up. You know, and so it's a different world for some sound people because they're used to working with, you know, acoustic guitar player who just puts a mic on his guitar and plays quietly. You know, that's not me. I'm ready. I'm AC/DC. You know, I'm ready to make the sound of a band when I'm playing. I want my notes to be this big. You know, so as soon as I was making enough money and getting enough people in theaters, the first thing I did is hired my own sound man, and then I was in heaven. You know, because he knew how to work with every PA, make my monitors sound good and all that. And then, and I would give him the signal. And so basically, my sound man, Steve Law, who's been with me since 2010, he does all my effects. He does everything. I give him two signals. So I come out of my Maton guitar into a tuner that mutes, because you don't want to be tuning loud through the PA. You don't want to be doing that. You want to have a tuner that mutes so you can quietly tune and you can talk to the audience if you want. You know, don't get a tuner where all like a Peterson tuner on stage where everything spins around. You don't want that because you can't read those damn things properly on stage with all the lights and stuff. So get yourself a tuner that when the light is red, you're out of tune. When the light is green, you're in tune. That's all you need to know. So do that. So, and then I go into an AER preamp, which is basically the guts of an AER amp signal. And so that goes directly into the PA. That's one signal. And then I come out of there and go into an Udo Rosner Da Capo amp. And I come out of that amp direct into the PA. So it's direct and amp together. And what we basically do, it's like 60-40. So it's 60% the direct preamp, which is big, warm, has lots of nice round bass and low mids and a kind of real woodiness to it. And then you put the amp with it, and the amp gives it grit and kind of air around it. And you cover the hole on the guitar, and you turn the microphone flat out, and you turn the pickup flat out. That's how you get the sound. I'm talking about Maton guitars and Maton pickups. And all my guitars have the same Maton pickup and microphone system. And you just solve all your problems by covering the hole and turning it up flat out. And then you got all these beautiful frequencies. And the sound of a Maton pickup when it's flat out and everything, when you're sitting there like this, it's like my guitar's right there. It's almost right in front of you, you know? So, you know, that's what I do. I give him those two big fat signals and he puts them in the PA. And then when I play like a slow song where there needs to be lots of air, he's a reverb master, you know, he really does. But my lighting director, Zach, he's a musician too. And people are amazed with what we do with lights, with songs. Like I can be playing away and the lights are flashing and all that. We finish, boom, and it goes to black. I change guitars, and then I'm going to play a ballad with a low tune guitar, and I just start to play the introduction, and these fingers of lights come from behind me, so I'm a silhouette, and it just starts like that. And then as I start to play the song, this beautiful light comes on my hands and my guitar, and it slowly comes out. And it's all those kind of things that are part of the overall presentation of the song. And my songs are the stars of my show. But Zach and Steve do amazing work with me. It truly is amazing.
That is so fascinating, because I think in my head, it has been a while since I've seen you, but I definitely don't remember seeing the lighting stuff like that. I remember when I saw you, it was very flat lighting. I don't remember anything like that.
This is probably, you probably saw me. Zach's been with me coming up for 10 years.
Okay, so it's definitely been, it was definitely before I saw you before. I got to come see you again, man. I want to see this now. You're making it sound so epic. So,
thank you.
And the last follow-up question I had, which I know we're going all over the place here, but
that's all right.
So obviously you said build that repertoire of the 2 hours of material and then start picking it out and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
But what about maintaining it? And the reason I ask is I had a recent experience where I learned a song, and I spent months learning this song. It was actually a Jerry Reed song. It was Jerry's Breakdown. And I got it down. And then recently someone asked me to play me something cool on the guitar. And I was like, it had been maybe a year since I'd played it. And I fell flat on my face. And I had it down a year ago. And
yeah, good luck with Jerry's Breakdown.
It's a monster,
good luck
man.
with that. It is an absolute monster.
It's such a great song. Especially that clip of him and Chet Atkins played on that TV show in the 70s.
Oh, yeah.
It's the best version.
Yeah. Well, anything that's difficult to play, like for instance, I'm home at the moment because I've got 2 broken ribs and a 3rd fractured rib, and so I'm home recovering so I can get this healed so I can get back out there. First show is on the 5th of December. So this is the longest period I've had off because I've got broken ribs. But every day I've been playing tunes and, playing songs that I haven't played in a long time, and you've got to keep practicing, especially things that are hard to play, and all that sort of stuff. But I've been writing some new songs, and like for instance, I'll show you. I have 2 grandchildren, and my oldest granddaughter is Scarlett, and I had this idea, which started out as a slow piece like this. Right? I started like that. And then after I messed with it for a while, I thought, this is not going anywhere. It needs to feel like it's moving. So I made it like this. Here in Scarlett's world. bridge. Second bridge.
Oh,
That's Scarlet's
bravo.
World.
Bravo. Is that released yet?
No, it's brand new.
Oh, man. Unreleased tracks here on the Rhinestone podcast. You heard it here first. Scarlet's World, Tommy Emmanuel.
See?
That was
Yeah.
amazing. That's
Thank you.
beautiful.
Thank you.
So, oh, man, that was so cool. I'm sorry. I'm really geeking out here. I'm trying not to, but it's been so much fun, Tommy.
Put your geek filter on, buddy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Right away. Okay. So you talked about breaking the ribs, and that brings me up something I want to talk to you about, which is, I've been following you on 2 decades now, and I've never seen a year where you have not played 150, 200 shows at least, and that's grueling. You're getting older. You're not 25. You're not 32
I'm not.
anymore.
I'm 21 in here.
Yes,
And that's the problem. And when I broke my ribs in Toronto 3 weeks ago, it shocked me that the doctor that tended me at the hospital said, you got to do these breathing exercises, and he gave me this thing here to suck air in and all that sort of stuff to exercise my lungs. He said, because you're in the danger zone. I said, well, what do you mean? He said, people your age, there are people who break their ribs and they die because they don't take enough air in, and they get pneumonia in the bottom of their lung, and they die. And he said a lot of people your age have died from that. So you make sure you do, and I just I didn't think of that, I didn't think, well, I'm older and all that, but next year I'll be 70, but I still feel 21. I don't feel any different. I feel a bit smarter than what I was when I was 21. I know a little more about life through the mistakes that I've made, but I still feel like the same kid, and I'm still so fascinated with this damn instrument.
Well, my question is more along the lines of, how are you taking care of yourself to play that many shows? Because it's brutal. Touring is one of the most brutal ways of life.
Okay, so it's very easy. First of all, I don't eat any crap. You don't eat bad foods. No donuts and shit like that. None of that stuff. Eat real food. Give your body real nourishment. Drink lots of water. Drink lots of coffee. And get as much rest as you possibly can. The rule on the road, when you're touring and you're doing night after night and traveling and all that, the rule is if you can get a nap, take it. Doesn't matter when it is, you know. And I'm an expert at sleeping on planes, on buses, on trains, and all. I sit down for 1 minute and I'm gone, you know. And so it's about looking after your body, and getting enough rest, you know. And the other thing that I love touring is I get to meet people every night. You know, I do a VIP meet and greet every night, and people pay extra, and they get a good seat right up the front. They get a laminate, they get a photo, and all that sort of stuff. And then we get a photo together, and maybe I sign their guitar or whatever, and we get to talk. And there's a level of enthusiasm when I walk into the room and there are 35 people who've paid extra to meet me. There's a level of enthusiasm that is so beautiful. And I always tell them, well, I've taken your enthusiasm on board, and I'm going to give it back to you when I go on stage. So, some people will say, "How the hell do you do it?" And all this. I've always been like this. I've always had lots of energy, and I always throw myself absolutely 100% into whatever I'm doing, and sometimes I can overdo it. I can fall over and break a rib. I was skipping sideways on stage and I fell over. Who'd have thunk it? So actually, the funny thing is, Banner, I cracked 2 ribs, and 5 shows later, I sneezed after the show and broke those 2 ribs from a sneeze.
Life's funny like that. Never ceases to amaze me.
Yeah.
But I think too, like how, like, okay, so I think, let me ask you this. Are you an extroverted person when you're on tour? Like, are you excited to be around people? Do people give you life and energy?
People give me lots of energy, but no, I'm a very quiet person on the road. And my normal routine is, we use the Google Calendar. So the Google Calendar has every day it has a breakdown. Crew load in at 3 p.m. or 2:30 or whatever. And if there's an opening act, if someone's playing on the show with me, like Mike Dawes or Andy McKee or somebody like that, I sound check first, usually around 4:30, and then whoever's playing first then sets their stuff up, and then they do their sound check, and they're all set to open. So I get to the hall usually around 3 o'clock, and if my guitars need stringing, I will restring my guitars in that period and stretch them in and tune and play, and then I'll do my sound check. But normally I play. If I don't need to do string changes, then I'm playing tunes. I'm in my dressing room and I'm playing like it's the show. I've turned my engine on and I'm going, And it's also exciting when you get in the hall and there you are, you're in the hall where you're playing. And, I get a chance to walk around and say hello to people who work there, the crew and all that, and go out and visit my merchandise people and say hi and sign a few things for them, and kind of hang out with the guys and all that, and watch Zach doing his lights, programming his lights and all that sometimes. And on my rider is fruit and coffee, water, chocolate. So that's the kind of stuff that I have backstage.
Now, what about after the gig? Because what I've noticed in my experience playing shows, now I've nowhere near the amount of shows you've played, but a lot of times it's hard to come down after a show, especially a good show, even a bad show. It's the nerves are so high, the energy's there, the adrenaline's there. How are you able to come back down and like find yourself again? Because that's one thing I noticed with a lot of musicians is after a show, the energy is so hyped up.
No, it takes all your brain power to play like my stuff, right? To play the way I play takes all my brain power. Half an hour after the show, I'm deadbeat. I'm ready for bed.
Has it always
And I
been that
use
way?
no, no. It's only been that way probably the last 10 years. Prior to that, uh, yeah, we would go out or we would sit in the hotel and drink wine and eat cheese and crackers and stuff like that and talk and have fun and that kind of thing. But nowadays, I finish the show and I just want to get back to my room and chill out and have some peace and quiet because I got to do it again tomorrow. So, you know, I ask a lot of myself when I'm on the road. I really hold nothing back when I get out there, and I want to be in good shape. And that's the reason why I'm not out there playing right now, is because I've got ribs that need to be healed, and I want to be in good shape because all the dates that I moved from November are now in February. So February is like full like an egg. So I've got to be in good shape, you know. I've got to take care of my hands as well. You know, I've got to keep my hands in. You know, sometimes if I have a little break and I say I go somewhere where there's a beach, whatever, and I swim and do all that, and then I come back on the road, you know, calluses get a little soft. And, you know, the first three shows, it's like, yeah, it's a nightmare. And yeah, and I don't use nails. You can see my nails are pretty short, right? I have calluses right here. There's my callus, and my callus is. There's the sound of my callus. Here's the sound of a pick. It's almost exactly the same, right?
That's
That's
amazing. That's so cool.
yeah. So I'm home and I'm playing and I'm writing and doing podcasts.
That's right. And then so the food thing, that's interesting too. So it's just fruit. You said fruit, chocolate.
Fruit, chocolate, yeah, and uh, dinner is brought in every day, and we all eat together. We're a family on the road. We all eat together, and
How
and
how
then
how much time before the show are you eating?
we usually eat at 5:30 because you know, 6:45. It depends if it's a 7:30 or an 8 o'clock show. If it's an 8 o'clock show, then I'm doing the meet and greet at 6:45 till like 7:30, depending on how many people there are. Um, and then I've got a little break, and I practice, I play, I get dressed, and all that, and then it's showtime, and away we go. So yeah, and the days off, we're usually traveling, and we get to where we're going, and during the driving or the traveling, Zach has got on his computer and found a restaurant for us to go to and has booked it. And so we all go out to dinner on our night off and have a big feast and have a good time, you know.
You make touring sound so much fun, Tommy. I want to go tour with you.
Oh, it's great. I love it. It's my life, you know.
how how have you kept it enjoyable for you? Because I mean, like, you know, thousands upon thousands of shows at this point. It seems like it would get very monotonous. How do you keep it fresh?
I'm always looking to write new songs, and I'm always looking for new ways of playing things. And you know, every audience is different. Every hall is different. Every stage is different. And I think the only thing I get tired of is myself. Sometimes I I get to thinking, boy, people must be tired of me doing this. I should give it a break. And then I have a good show, and people are like, they write to me and say, "Oh my God, you changed my life," and you blah blah blah, and it's like, oh, there you go. I better get back out there. See, I never know the effect that what I do has on people unless they tell me. But I can also see it in their face and in their eyes if I can see their eyes. But the thing about music, it's so magical, and you just never know how it's going to affect people. And I believe it's a spiritual event. When I play, something good happens to you, Banner. I don't know what it is. It's not me, but it's something that happens when I play. And so that's why I'm here. I believe that's why I'm here on earth, you know?
I couldn't agree more. Um, yeah, it's just again, like I was telling you, it's your concert you played in Atlanta at the Variety Playhouse in Little Five Point in Atlanta. I'll never forget it. It had that. It's one of the most amazing memories I have with my grandfather. It was one of those things, and it's like, every time I hear you play, I always kind of go back to that, and it's deeper than just you playing fingerstyle guitar. It's deeper than you playing, day tripper or classical gas. It's just, I have mental snapshots from that time, and it means so
Mm,
much.
yeah. Well, it's hard, you something good happens, and I'm always expecting there to be magic. And if there isn't, then I better have some good songs to stand on, to play and still give the audience a good time. But when the magic's there, holy smoke, there's nothing like it. It's unbelievable.
So recently we had Andy McKee on the podcast, the great fingerstyle guitar player, and he was amazing. He was great. One of the things he told us, which really shocked us, was he does not like to play with other musicians, which is also hilarious because he just released a trio record with other guitar players. Now, what I love is you guys have a viral clip together of you guys playing his arrangement of Africa. And what was so amazing about that clip was you, as great as you are, you have this amazing gift to make others around you play better. And I love it. And I'm so curious about your approach to jamming and playing with other people because you do such a good job of knowing when to step in the spotlight, but you also know when to pull back.
Yeah. Well, I can sum it up for you easily, Banner. A musician's job, his first job, is to be a listener. We listen to each other. Um, when Andy was touring with me, I so desperately wanted for us to play something together, but because he comes from that Don Ross school of yeah, that style of playing with all the weird tunings and all that stuff. The people who play all that stuff are not jammers. You can't jam. And so he said, "Oh, I play Africa," and I said, "Okay, play it for me." So he played it, and I could just barely hear the melody. Everything else was sounding good, but when he played the melody, it was like, "I hear the drums, they go in tonight," and it was like, oh, gee. So that's what I thought. I should double the melody to get the melody out. That's all my instincts told me. And and then took a little drum solo thing in it, and then doubled it, bum 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 bum, like that, all that stuff, and I found a way of making it work. So at least we had one song we could play together. You know, Don Ross, bless his cotton socks, is a great guy, and he's a great musician. But we've never played one song together because there's not one song we can play together, because if he plays one of his songs, first of all, there's no room for anyone else in it because he's got it all self-contained, and that's kind of how it works, you know. So if I get someone up to play with me, I immediately try to make plenty of room for that person, and state the melody, and then let that person go, play and get back, and if you're playing with somebody, and say you're playing like a right, you're playing the blues or something like that. When it's their solo, right, so I'm taking away all of that because you don't need it. That's where the soloist is going to be playing, right? So I just need to be muting the bass part, moving it around, playing through the changes, but keeping it out of the way of the other person. And that's what a proper accompanist should be doing, getting out of the way, there's a thing, people are so enthusiastic to play with you, and they 9 times out of 10, a guitar player who sits in and plays a tune with me usually plays all over me, and I'm like, and all it is youthful enthusiasm, but they're not really listening because they're like, holy shit, look where I am playing up here with this guy, and instead of like actually listening to what I'm doing, So a musician's first job, is to be a listener.
Is there anything a musician can do to get better at that?
Yeah, do it more. Get out and play with other players, Everything you do, you've got to have experience at it. You can't learn it at Berkeley. You can learn some of it, but you'll learn it on the job. That's where you'll learn it. So get together with other players and jam, and figure out, if I play a lot less, I can hear this guy a lot better, or whatever, And the other thing is, a lot of people they forget about being a timekeeper when you're the rhythm guy, and that's the first thing on my mind. Like I'm thinking like a drummer. It's like this is where it is, and if the guy, I can feel that he's pushing it, and he wants the tempo to go up, then I'll go up with him if that makes him happy. But other than that, this is where it is, and this is where it's staying. So you better get used to it,
I love it. I think I think what you said about listening is probably the most profound thing here, because it really is, that is the essential skill of being a musician, right?
It's just true. It's absolutely true. And it doesn't matter what instrument, I remember Eric Clapton saying that when he first had Steve Gadd on sessions, he said Steve would come in. He wouldn't go anywhere near the drums. He'd go into the control room and listen to the song. And he'd listen to it a few times, and he'd figure out what he was going to do. And then he would go out and play the song. And he'd usually get it in 1 or 2 takes because he listened first.
If only I could be a fly on the wall for those sessions, man. I bet those were wild.
Yeah.
So you obviously famously had Chet Atkins as a mentor, and I was really fascinated to learn this. I saw a quote from you, and I wanted to confirm this is true. Apparently, Chet Atkins told you to learn the lyrics to songs that you were performing instrumentals of. Why is that?
So you know what you're playing about. and if you want to sing along with it, you can. You know, it's a good idea. Plus, you never forget it. If you learn the lyrics, you can't forget it. You know, so yeah, every song I've learned that's been a cover of someone or whatever. Say, for instance, uh, let's think about an old standard. Say if you're a guy who likes jazz standards and you wanted to learn the nearness of you. What I recommend you do is listen to at least 3 versions of it. All right. First, Frank Sinatra, Ella Fitzgerald, or Sarah Vaughan, any of those, and Nat King Cole, people like that, because they're the people who hone the melody right and they phrase it and all that stuff. So I had to listen to Ella sing it. I had to listen to Frank like that, and then I worked out the melody. Right, so. Oh no, that's tenderly. What was it? The nearness of you. Oh, that's right. Oh no, it's just the nearness of you. It's not the pale moon that excites me, that thrills and delights me. Oh no. Then it goes. Like that. And there's the melody. You don't need to be showing us all your clever chops and all your amazing chord knowledge. You need to tell us the story, like the singer does. It's not the pale moon that excites me.
I feel it when you bend those notes. Oh man.
And then the bridge, da da da. Then down the octave. So I'm thinking like the singer playing the melody as it's written, and the other thing about that is if you get the chance to play with other players, people as good as Martin Taylor or Frank Vignola, people like that. Everyone has a slightly different way of playing the chord changes. Some people play the bebop changes. Some people play the standards, the Sinatra type chords, right? So I remember when I played it with Martin Taylor and he played some different chords. Oh man, it was so beautiful. And I just stayed with the melody and tried not to map out some of those chords of his with notes. I just stayed with the melody. And it was just incredibly beautiful, Like it's not the pale moon, da 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 da.
So good.
Just gorgeous.
Beautiful turnaround.
Yeah. Martin Taylor is an extraordinary musician. When I play with him, I'm thinking like the Count Basie big band. That's who I am when I'm playing with him. I'm the big band, but behind him, right? So because when he plays melody, he transports you. He takes me right back to the 40s and 50s, you know. And we play a tune like let's see. So my foot's doing this. So when I stop, this keeps going the whole time because you're on. That's the train, you know. You're on it, and playing that kind of music for me is such a joy. And every now and again, I put on Frank Sinatra live at the Sands with Quincy Jones conducting and Count Basie big band, and I put it on this and crank it up. Man, what a groove those guys played with. It was so freaking awesome. If you want to learn about playing songs and rhythm and swing, they're the guys to listen to.
Oh, I'm definitely grabbing that album after this interview. That's going to be the ride home today. Live at the Sands. Okay. So I wanted to ask you about a very specific experience, which is that in 2000 you played at the Sydney Olympics at the closing ceremonies. I checked this out. The estimated broadcast was just under 3 billion people, which does not get you don't get any bigger than that in music. How did you get the call for that? How did I want to know everything. How did what did you?
Well, it's the Sydney Olympics, so it's being put on. The Olympics are being hosted by Australia, so they want to feature Australian artists and all that. And my brother and I are a kind of part of the fabric of Australia, because we've been on television and in everyone's lounge room out there, record player, since the 60s. And so they rang me. I was actually living in England at that time, and they rang me and wanted me to do it. And I said, well, you can't have me do it without my brother. He's got to be there. So we chose the song "Back on Terra Firma," which is a John Jorgensen song, and Phil and I had recorded that song. So I used the backing track from the original recording, and we played live over the top. We were the only act that played live. Everyone else had to mime because it was just too big, and everything's moving. It's this long parade of there were 30,000 people working on that event. 30,000. It was run by the military. It was done in a secret location, all the rehearsals, and it was so incredible. I was so proud of my country. They, did such a great job. But Phil and I used Line 6 pods.
Really?
Yeah, and we played live. We used inner ear monitors, and we played live, and it sounded just like the record.
That's amazing. That's incredible. Yeah. Why did you guys use the Line 6 pods? I'm just curious.
because we didn't want to mime. We wanted to play live,
Okay.
but you couldn't use like a Fender Twin or a Marshall, whatever. No. So, but there's a wonderful story to go with this thing this happening. So there's a famous tailor here in Nashville, and and his name is Manuel, and he makes clothes, for people who can afford a Manuel jacket. If you can afford a Manuel jacket, you're doing pretty well. And so anyway, so I go into Manuel's store looking at shirts and jackets, and I found a beautiful jacket, and then I saw the price tag. It was $10,000, right? And I didn't have $10,000. And anyway, so Manuel came up to me and he said, "Oh, what are you looking for, sir?" And I said, "I'm going to be on the Sydney Olympic, the closing ceremonies." He said, "Oh, congratulations," and all that. And I said, "I'm really looking for something that will just look so beautiful, and wow, this coat." And he took it out and he said, "You need a good shirt to go with that." And he went and picked a shirt, and he said, "Okay, and what was your name?" And I told him, and he said, "Are you the guy that played with Chet Atkins?" I said, "Yeah, that's me." He said, "Oh, great," and he loaned me the jacket and a shirt, put it in a plastic zip bag, gave it to. He said, "Bring it back when you're done with it." I took it all the way to Australia, wore it on the Olympics thing, and brought it back to Manuel. Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing.
Yeah,
What a guy.
yeah.
Okay, but who calls you for this? Like, I mean, is it like the Olympic Committee? Is it Australia
Oh,
Broadcasting Company?
um, well, it's the company that it's their job to put the show together. You know, so they wanted me to do it, which was nice. And I definitely wanted to do it, but I wanted my brother to be with me. And I said to him, "You need to take a photo of all this with your mind because it'll never happen again in our lifetime." You know. So yeah, it was that. There's another wonderful story about this. Is so the backing track had to be 2 minutes and 46 seconds, no longer. Everyone had the same time, right? So I go to the studio where Chet's grandson Jonathan works, and we did the edit together. He's a sound engineer and a mixing and mastering guy, and he did the edit for me. And then I had to go to the airport to get on a plane to fly Nashville to LA, LA to Sydney. And I get to the airport and I'm standing in line, and there's a very tall man with long blonde hair standing in front of me. And I thought, don't tell me that's John Jorgensen. And I looked around and it was him. And I got to tell him on that flight, yeah, that we were going to do the Olympic ceremony and that we were going to play his song back on terra firma. And he just cried and was so thrilled. How about that?
That's amazing. Okay,
Mm.
so walk me through the rehearsal process. I mean, is there like you told me the military was running it? Like, were you guys
Well,
obviously? I'm sure you're.
yeah, they were making sure everyone got around and got to where they had to be, and they were taking care of all the logistics. Rehearsals were with in ear monitors, and we basically got the sound together, and and we ran it a few times, and then we had to run the whole thing with everything moving and all the other artists going. We had to run it with everyone, and then they had to time it because it had to work out to a certain time, and it was a military style operation, and it worked perfectly, and it was right on the minute. It was exactly the right time, so it was beautiful.
And then for that, do they like count? Does like a producer in your ear like, all right, you guys start in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, or did you just know when to go, or how did that
Oh
work?
well, we'd had enough rehearsals. We were on right before a band called Noiseworks, and we were after someone like Kylie Minogue or someone like that. So we knew exactly when we were on, and it started out with a ba-da-ba, da-da, da-da, da-da. Yeah. So yeah, once you've rehearsed it a few times, you've got it. You know and it's only 2 minutes and 46 seconds. So you got to throw everything you can at it, play the melody, do the stuff, and make sure that when the camera's on you, that you're animated and you're looking down the barrel at people. And so I had my Manuel jacket, and I had Maton Guitars built me an electric guitar, a white one with a red scratch guard. People are not going to forget. The guy with a white guitar on the red. I did all I could to try and help stand out a little.
Well, it definitely is an amazing performance, and everyone should check it out. We'll put a link to it in the YouTube description for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Um,
The actual quality of the film's not that great because it was a long while ago.
yeah, but I mean, it's still pretty amazing. Like even if the quality isn't there, it's fascinating. Like you played in front of like multiple billions of people.
Yeah. Well, there are 100,000 people in the stadium,
Yeah.
30,000 athletes out in the middle of the thing, and then 2.75 billion people out there watching on TV. It's pretty amazing. 3 billion or something. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's incredible. All right, so what do you think are the most overrated and underrated revenue streams in the music industry?
Overrated or underrated what?
Revenue streams in the music industry.
I have no idea.
Really?
Yeah. All I know about revenue streams is I know that I make a living playing live. I don't get money in the mail. I used to. When you sold records and CDs and you got a royalty, you got a songwriter's royalty and all that stuff. But I don't. I mean, the only streaming thing I have is in my phone. I have Spotify, and I like Spotify. So I don't have TikTok and stuff like that, even though I make TikTok videos. But I have people who put all that stuff up. I'm not that interested. I don't have much time. I'd rather be playing than hanging on my phone. So, but I think I probably get a check every year from YouTube, but I wouldn't want to be living on that. You know, I'd be under a bridge in a cardboard box.
Well, I mean, that's not much better than what I've got here. So, but okay, but you do a lot of diverse things in music. So, for example, you do camps, you have True Fire courses, DVDs, things like that. Are those things like, because you don't seem like a person to me who's making everything I've noticed from you and gleaned from you tonight has shown me that you are an artist and the love of music comes first before money always. And but so are these things that you do, like the camps and stuff like that, are they more is it something you're passionate about doing, or is something that like I'm
Oh,
passionate about doing it?
it's good for me. It's so good for me because it's first of all I get to play a lot, and people are. I get to spend real time with people. You know, I just don't get that on the road as much. And so um, I get to help people in a real way. And that's what's important to me. Um, but camps. We try to keep the level quality of everything. The hotel where we host the event is always a beautiful hotel The food's always amazing. There's lots of great things to do. My instructors are the guys that I've hand chosen, and we have shows every night. And I take the entire group, 150 students every morning from 9 till 11. 2 hours of songs, songwriting stuff, answering questions, um, telling stories, hearing what people want to know about, all that sort of stuff. It means a lot to me, you know. So that's and camps pay pretty well, So it's good. I get to share it with all the other instructors, and everyone wins. The hotel's busy, and the campers are just having the time of their life because it's heaven. We don't have to do anything but look, listen, play, jam, talk. All about music and the guitar. That's it. It's beautiful.
That's awesome. So last question of this interview section. Do you have any regrets on your musical journey? And if so, what would you change?
Oh, well, I don't really have regrets. My musical journey. Uh, I think everything unfolded the way it was probably meant to unfold. Um, I mean, if I hear some of the records that I played on back in the 70s, I wish I played better. But I did the best I could at the time. Um, yeah, I think the only regret I have is drugs and alcohol. But I use those as I use the mistakes I made to help other people who have a similar issue. And so nothing is wasted. Even my bad experiences are not wasted because I can help someone with that, with the knowledge of this is what I did and this is how I got out of it and this is what I do now. So
Well, awesome, Tommy. That concludes the first section of our interview. We have this last section, which is a rapid fire section.
woo,
This is going to
yeah.
be quick. Feel free to go first thought, last thought. Feel free to expand on these as much as you want, but these are just quick questions. Feel free to think about them however you want to. What is the last album that blew your mind?
It blew my mind. uh hmm Donald Fagen, The Night Fly.
Oh, banger. Absolute banger. That is some great music.
Unbelievable album.
It's so good.
Unbelievable. The
It's,
writing, the playing, but the writing, oh my God, it's incredible.
yeah, 100%. Man, oh, that's so cool. It's so cool that you think that's awesome. Okay. Who is a guitar player that deserves more attention?
Um, Rory Hoffman. He's a genius. He's blind, and he's one of the greatest musicians who's ever walked this planet. He is so unbelievable. Rory Hoffman.
What does he do? Does he play guitar?
He plays guitar. He plays piano. He plays accordion. Plays saxophone. He can whistle and scat and whistle and stuff. He plays guitar like Thumbs Carlyle, like the guitar laying flat on his lap, and he does like this kind of thing, like that. Yeah, he is so phenomenal. Rory Hoffman, check him out.
Is there any particular song or album we should check out from him?
No, just go onto YouTube and push Rory Hoffman. Okay. Yeah.
If you lost all of your gear in a tragic house fire and only had $100 to start over with, what would you get?
Uh, some food and some coffee.
No guitars, no nothing.
Oh no, I wouldn't spend $100 on the guitar. I'd find someone I could borrow a guitar from.
So you would choose coffee over your guitar. I have a hard time believing that.
No, no. Well, yeah. If I lost everything, then I would just start again. I would get Maiten to send me a guitar, and I would start again. It's the same story when people say to me, "What happens if something happens to your hands?" I say, "I'll learn to play with my feet." So I'm going to make music no matter what. If I got no feet or hands, I'll learn. I'll find some way of making music with my stumps.
Nothing's going to keep Tommy Emmanuel down.
That's right.
How do you recover from a bad gig?
You forget it. Yeah.
How do you forget it?
You say to yourself, "I played like shit tonight, and I wish I could have done better, but I just couldn't. So it was a bad night. So I'm not going to dwell on it. I'm just going to let it go down the river, and I'll get up tomorrow and I'll have another go at it."
And then what took you from a beginner musician to an intermediate musician?
I don't know. Doing gigs, I think, playing with my brothers, and playing to the audience. And like I wanted to be in show business, right? I didn't think like, oh, I'm a musician. I didn't think like that at all. It's like, I want to be in show business, and I play the guitar. So my dad said, "You should move around a little. Try moving around a little." So I started moving around a little bit, and the audience lit up. So I moved around a bit more, and they lit up a bit more. And so I went from being the rhythm guy, being the little kid who moved around and had personality, to a 12-year-old who could play Chet Atkins tunes and amaze the shit out of everybody. So I went through that stage, and then as I grew, I learned more music, and if I wanted to work, I had to learn certain songs. Like when I was trying to make enough money to eat dinner and stuff like that, I got jobs in restaurants where I would play for free if they fed me, but they wanted Jobim music and stuff like that. They wanted cocktail music, so I had to learn the Girl from Ipanema and Wave and One Note Samba and all those. I had to learn all those standards and songs. I've there isn't a type of job that you could mention that I haven't done. I've had to go at everything.
And then what's taken you from an intermediate musician to an advanced musician?
Practice, of course. I still need to practice all the time. I need to be playing and composing and that, but nothing takes the place of experience. You need to get out there and play all the time. If I told you how many times and how many gigs I did, between 1980 and 83, you would vomit and say it's impossible. But
how many gigs did you play? How many gigs?
What you should be asking me was, did I sleep and did I eat?
Did you sleep and did you eat? Did you?
Not very much. It's really, you've got to be hungry for knowledge and for experience. That's the key. I am hungry for knowledge. I'm still dead hungry for knowledge. And because when I learn something new, my God, it just thrills me to the core. So, There was some friends of mine playing in town a few weeks ago, and a great guitar player from Australia named Stuart French, and his son Sonny is a really wonderful player. He's only like 16 or 17, and he's already playing really great. And he played this run that I recognized. I heard it on like a Barney Kessel record or something 40 years ago. And his teacher is teaching him all these great moves, you know. And I'm like, oh my God, what's that? And there I am after the show running up to this 16-year-old to get a lesson on how to do that, you know, because he knew something I didn't, and I wanted to know it, you know.
That's awesome. Who is a guitar player you look up to?
All of them. Oh, I can't think of many players that I don't look up to. Uh, well, you know, there are some guys that are just absolute magical to me. John Mayer is high up on that list. That guy is an incredible musician, great writer, great singer, great producer. But what a phenomenal guitar player he is. Um, and Brian Sutton in bluegrass. Brian is a true force of nature. Sierra Hull, and she's amazing. Um, I'd have to say that a person who has always been an inspiration to me and still is Eric Clapton. You know, he's a great example of a journeyman. He's a man who constantly evolves and does different stuff, and he's just there to play, and he loves it. And he was so nice to me when in 1990 I was opening for Eric Clapton in Australia with my band playing electric and acoustic, and he was so nice to me. He really was, and his band. You know, I got to know all those guys, Nathan East and Greg Fillinganes, and there was Phil, what's the name, on guitar. They were just so brilliant. And yeah, I've seen Eric a lot, and he's a real inspiration to me. Not just as a player, but I wish I wish I had a voice like that. The sound of his voice is unbelievable. What a tone he's got, you know. And he just seems to open his mouth and out it comes, you know. It's beautiful.
And then last but not least, what do people get wrong about being a musician?
They think it's a game of chance. It's not. It's not a game. It's being a musician is learning. You better get to work and learn your craft. If you want your phone to ring for people to come and, you know, to play on people's records, or to do a tour with an artist or whatever, you better have your shit together, you know. If you're a bass player, you better know every bass line from every R&B record since, you know, 1955 onwards, and you better know how to get a good sound, and you better turn up on time and do your job, you know, and carry your own equipment.
That's right. All you parents out there.
Exactly.
Well, Tommy, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for coming on the Rhinestone podcast. We have learned so much. I can't believe I got to have my own little personal concert here. Just all these cool things and seeing you play, man.
Well, I could be playing all day. You know, it's beautiful.
It is. Tommy, the floor is yours to promote anything you've got coming up, shows, records, anything like that. The floor is yours.
Well, all I can say to your listeners and the viewers out there is my next album is live at the Sydney Opera House, and it's a double album that I recorded last year, and there's a video with it. And at the moment, I'm knee deep in writing songs for my next solo acoustic album of all original songs.
Oh man, is Scarlett's World going to be on there? You think is that going to make the cut? Yeah,
It is
awesome.
Yeah.
Any idea when those will come out?
Well, Well, the Live at the Sydney Opera House album comes out, I think, in March. And I'm touring Australia again next May. And yeah, I think that's there's another camp. There's a camp the first week of May, 1st to the 4th, and the camp is right in the center of Rome in Italy.
Oh man, that'd be an
Yeah.
experience, y'all. If you can get
Oh,
out to
yeah.
that guitar camp, where can people
Yeah.
find out more about the guitar camp?
You can just go to my website, or the people who run my camps are called Dreamcatcher.
Okay. Well, everybody, thank you for checking in. This is Banner Driscoll with the Rhinestone Podcast, and thank you, Tommy, again.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me, brother.
Yes, sir.